Good afternoon, and welcome to the United States Naval Academy's Alumni Hall and the 25th Distinguished Graduate Award Medal Ceremony. I'm Midshipman Grant Booker, Class President of 2023. Today we are recognizing 5 exceptional graduates of the Naval Academy who will receive the 2023 Distinguished Graduate Award Medal from the Naval Academy Alumni Association and Foundation. Please rise for the arrival of the official party, followed by the introduction of this year's Distinguished Graduate Award recipients. Please remain standing for our March On of the Colors and the playing of our national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, the 63rd Superintendent of the United States Naval Academy, Sean S. Buck, United States Navy, Class of 1983. Admiral Mark Ferguson, United States Navy retired, Class of 1978, Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Naval Academy Alumni Association. Major General Leo V. Williams III, United States Marine Corps Reserve, retired, Class of 1970. Mr. Ronald L. Nickel, Class of 1975. Admiral James G. Stavridis, Class of 1976. Rear Admiral Julius S. Caesar, United States Navy Reserve, retired, Class of 1977. Admiral Cecil D. Haney, United States Navy retired, Class of 1978. Please remain standing. March on the colors. Ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem. March off the colors. Please be seated. Today, we are honored to have with us 20 previous recipients of the Alumni Association's Distinguished Graduate Award or their widows. Please hold your applause until I announce the final name. With us today are Rear Admiral Lawrence C. Chambers, class of 1952, and his wife, Sarah. The Honorable Daniel L. Cooper, class of 1957. Dr. Jennifer London, widow of Captain J. Philip Jack London, class of 1959. Vice Admiral Edward M. Straw, class of 1961, and his wife, Chris. The Honorable John H. Dalton, class of 1964, and his wife, Margaret. Rear Admiral Thomas C. Lynch, class of 1964. The Honorable John Scott Redd, Sr., class of 1966, and his wife, Donna. Admiral Richard W. Mees, class of 1967. Vice Admiral John R. Ryan, class of 1967. Admiral Michael G. Mullen, class of 1968. Mr. Kevin W. Scherer, class of 1970. Mr. Peter F. DeVos, class of 1971. Admiral Timothy J. Keating, class of 1971. Mr. Stephen S. Reineman II, class of 1970. General John R. Allen, class of 1976, and his wife, Catherine. Vice Admiral Durwood D.C. Curtis, class of 1976, and his wife, Tawanda. Mr. J. Michael Yeager, class of 1976. The Honorable Sean J. Stackley, class of 1979, and his wife, Terry. And finally, Ms. Janie L. Mines, class of 1980. Naval Academy Command Chaplain, Captain Maurice Buford, United States Navy.
Let us pray. Most gracious and triumphant God, on this occasion we come to dramatize your divine promise that says we should always give honor to whom honor is due. For the record is clear about tonight's honorees. You have used their time, talents, and treasures to inspire organizations from being good to operationalizing their true greatness. Their record speaks for themselves. They never backed down from a challenge. They refused to take counsel from fear, and they activated their faith to move mountains. Truly, they are the best of us in the midst of the arena, inspiring the way, modeling the way, and making a way. Because of this, we are assembled here tonight to simply say thankful for their faithfulness to our beloved republic. Thank you for their enduring commitment to this great institution. And thank you for being the source of our strength, the hope for tomorrow, and our divine protector for the ages to come. Now receive all of your glory, your honor, and your power forever. Amen.
This is the United States Naval Academy and United States Naval Academy Alumni Association's 25th Distinguished Graduate Award Medal Ceremony. Since the award's inception, 110 graduates have received this honor. The Distinguished Graduate Award is presented to living graduates of the United States Naval Academy whose character and distinguished service draw wholesome comparisons to the Naval Academy core values of honor, courage, and commitment. These graduates have provided a lifetime of service to our nation and our naval service and have demonstrated unwavering support of the Naval Academy. This year, the Naval Academy Alumni Association has chosen to honor 5 individuals with the award. Please welcome the 63rd Superintendent of the United States Naval Academy, Vice Admiral Sean Buck.
Welcome, everyone. Happy Friday. Happy spring. What a great day to celebrate one of the greatest recognition ceremonies that we always have annually. To many, many of you in the seated audience here, welcome home. It's glad to have you here on the yard again. You're always welcome. And we're glad that you're here to pay tribute and congratulate these 5 gentlemen to my right who have distinguished themselves over their entire lifetime. To the Brigade of Midshipmen, to our former distinguished graduates, to all alumni, to all of our families and all of our friends, and I've seen folks from all of those categories, and most importantly, our 5 awardees today, Major General Williams, Mr. Ron Nickel, Admiral Jim Stavridis, Rear Admiral Julius Caesar, and Admiral Cecil Haney. Thank you all. Thank everyone for taking the time and coming home and coming back to the yard to be here for this special occasion. As we've just heard briefly, the Distinguished Graduate Ceremony is an important event on our annual calendar for our entire Naval Academy family and Naval Academy community. It's an opportunity to inspire the next generation of officers, the Brigade of Midshipmen, through the actions and the accomplishments of those that have gone before us. This afternoon, we're here to recognize 5 alumni who have devoted a lifetime of service to our nation, made outstanding contributions in their respective fields, and demonstrated incredible leadership within our Naval Academy community. Midshipmen, from the day you take your oath of office in T-Court to the day that you throw your caps in the air at commissioning, you will undergo, as you know, some of you, a profound transformation. Over your 4-year journey, you'll train your bodies, your minds, and most importantly, your character to stand up to the trials that you will face out in the fleet as naval officers. You may choose to spend 5 years or 40 in our naval service, but your service to country and to others does not and should not end when you take off your uniform. The mission statement that you memorized during plebe summer encourages you to strive to assume the highest responsibilities of command, citizenship, and government. As our distinguished graduates have demonstrated, the virtues of honor, courage, and commitment forged here on the shores of the Severn extend far beyond your naval service. Whether you follow in the footsteps of our awardees here today and go on to become flag and general officers, titans of industry, or best-selling authors, to name just a few of the many hats that these individuals have worn through their adult lifetimes and their careers, these traits and virtues will make you stand out amongst your peers as Naval Academy graduates. Undoubtedly, some of you will one day be nominated by your classmates and named distinguished graduates of the Naval Academy. But whether or not you find yourself seated on stage in front of the brigade in Alumni Hall one day, each of your journeys here in Annapolis is designed to prepare you to serve our country and your communities honorably throughout your entire lifetime. Our Distinguished Graduate Award Ceremony is special because it provides an opportunity to not only celebrate the distinguished careers and contributions of these 5 individuals, but this event also provides an opportunity for each of our awardees to provide some candid advice to you, the Brigade of Midshipmen, whose shoes they once filled years ago. Major General Williams, Mr. Nickel, Admiral Stavridis, Admiral Caesar, Admiral Haney, let me be the first in our program today to say thank you and congratulations. Thank you for a lifetime of service and contribution in leadership of our country. And thank you in advance for your respective remarks to the midshipmen. All of you all are an inspiration to all of us in Alumni Hall today, and we look forward to being able to emulate and live up to the service that you've given our country. Congratulations.
We are pleased to showcase the lives and achievements of each of our distinguished graduates with a biographical video prepared in their honor. Presenting the Distinguished Graduate Award Medal to each of our awardees is Midshipman First Class Castellanos, Brigade Commander. Accompanying him are Vice Admiral Buck and Admiral Ferguson. From the class of 1970, Major General Leo V. Williams III.
Leo V. Williams III was born June 1, 1948 in Norfolk, Virginia, to parents Leo and Audrey. He was raised with his sister Audrey and brother Michael. In his youth, Leo was inspired by his family's naval lineage. His grandfather served during World War I and his father during World War II. Leo graduated as valedictorian from his high school class of 550 and was one of the first 2 Black Virginians nominated to the Naval Academy. As a first-class midshipman, he was battalion operations officer and was involved in numerous intramural sports, the Antiphonal Choir, and the Honor Committee. He also helped establish the Black Studies Committee and was co-founder of the JG's Rhythm and Blues Band. The Lucky Bag recognized Leo's ability to adapt to stringent requirements and made it through with flying colors and regimental stripes. After graduation, Leo joined the ranks of the U.S. Marine Corps. His early assignments included instructor at the Basic School, the 1st Marine Division in Camp Pendleton, the 3rd Marine Division in Okinawa, and was the first Black officer assigned to Officer Assignments Branch at Headquarters Marine Corps. After being offered a management position with Ford Motor Company, Leo transitioned to the Marine Corps Reserves. At Ford, he rose through the advanced vehicle development, marketing, and brand management ranks. He became brand manager for F-Series pickup trucks and all SUVs, a $40 billion product line of bestsellers that represented roughly 80% of Ford's North American profit. Leo created the FX4 off-road package option, which has been a bestseller since its inception over 20 years ago. As brand manager at Ford, Leo gave the Ford Expedition its name as a salute to the Marine Corps' expeditionary character. As a reserve officer, he served in command positions from captain to major general and was often required to take extended leaves of absence from his corporate role. He was on active duty during Desert Shield and Desert Storm in the early 90s and again during the global war on terrorism in the early 2000s. He was commanding general of the Marine Corps Reserve's Logistics Command, consisting of 10,000 hard-charging Marines in over 52 sites in the United States and Puerto Rico. As his last assignment before retiring, he was Deputy Commanding General of the Marine Corps Combat Development Command. He received numerous awards over his military career, including the Distinguished Service Medal, Defense Superior Service Medal, and the Exceptional Public Service Medal. Leo retired from the Marine Corps Reserves as well as Ford Motor Company in 2004. He then joined Medifast Incorporated as CEO and chairman of its Health Advisor Network subsidiary, presently called Optavia. During his 8-year tenure, Medifast's market value increased tenfold, and the subsidiary is now worth $1 billion. Leo has served on numerous boards for nonprofit organizations. They include Vice Chairman for the Marine Corps Reserve's Toys for Tots, the Reserve Forces Policy Board for the Secretary of Defense, the Naval Research Advisory Committee, Vice Chair of Navy Mutual Aid, and Chairman of the American Diabetes Association of Maryland. While serving on the Military Leadership Diversity Commission, he assisted in developing reports that resulted in the book From Representation to Inclusion. An interview with Leo was included in the book Pathbreakers, and he is also quoted numerous times in Robert Schneller's book Blue and Gold and Black. In addition, he has contributed significantly to the establishment of the National Medal of Honor Leadership and Education Center in South Carolina. For his alma mater, Leo was the first Black board member of the Naval Academy Foundation and vice chairman of the Naval Academy Alumni Association Board of Trustees. He has served 20 consecutive years in these organizations and in various committees and leadership roles supporting the Naval Academy and the alumni community. Leo currently resides in Charleston, South Carolina with his wife, Vicki. They have 3 sons and 7 grandchildren. Leo says that he has had the benefit of several meaningful accomplishments, but being a good dad, husband, and friend are at the top of the list. Major General Leo V. Williams III, a hard-charging Marine, executive, and volunteer leader contributing to the advancement of our Naval Academy, our military, and our nation.
My. Hello, Brigade! And hello, all of you very special guests. Oh, what a beautiful day this is. I want to start by saying thank you to Marine Corps Colonel and Dr. Kenneth Dunn, and to my mighty, mighty class of 1970. I enjoy this tremendous honor today because of Dr. Dunn's and my class's stubbornness. This was not our first charge up the hill, nor our second, nor our third. It took a fourth magic run. This time, we made it to the top of the hill. So this is just one tremendous day, and it's that way because they just wouldn't give up. So thank you. Thanks also to my family and my friends and my classmates for always being there for me. Thanks to everyone who's ever tried to help me. I stand on your shoulders. Thanks to my wise and wonderful wife, Vicki, who's right there. Who makes me feel every day that I'm the luckiest man in the world. Not very long ago, one of my hugely successful 1970 classmates and I were talking about what it was that we had that allowed us to enjoy the opportunities and the successes that we enjoyed. We said that maybe it was pixie dust that had been sprinkled on us maybe at birth. But as I thought more deeply, that little light came on, that light that we often have known ourselves. I'm a left-handed black man who grew up in the segregated Jim Crow South in the 1950s and 60s. Nothing was easy. Some of you can empathize with that, others can sympathize with it. No, for me, it wasn't pixie dust, it was Dixie dust. That's Dixie with a capital D. And at that time, it was sprinkled liberally at birth in Norfolk, Virginia, and all throughout the South, and much of the North and Midwest and West, on everyone whose birth certificate identified them as quote unquote Negro. That Dixie dust had mystical powers. Sometimes it would make those of us who had been sprinkled with it, it would make us seem invisible. When one of my best friends, Edwin Shirley, and I became interested in the Naval Academy, it seemed that we were invisible because the men who gave out the nominations in Virginia and across the American South didn't want to see folks who looked like me have the privilege of matriculating in these hallowed halls. But we had the will, and our community found a way. But then sometimes that Dixie dust made me feel superhuman, like a character straight out of the Marvel comics. There was the evening when Theophilus Gibson and I were stopped by a couple of policemen on the way home from a yard party. These were white policemen. They jumped out of the car and they shouted for us to halt. "Put your hands up," they said. Theophilus asked why they were stopping us. And one of the policemen said, "Two big 6'2", 6'3" guys just robbed a convenience store not so far from here." Thee said, "But sir, we are each 5'6" tall, and we each weigh 130 pounds. The policeman stepped back and he said, "You know, in the dark, all you black boys look alike." At that point, he paused for just a moment. He said, "Now, you boys get your butts on home and stay out of trouble, you hear?" So there's no doubt that it wasn't pixie dust, it was Dixie dust that got sprinkled on me in those early days in Norfolk. I did get sprinkled, though, with some of that pixie dust, and I think it happened right here at the Naval Academy. This pixie dust was loaded with priceless ingredients like integrity, discipline, respect, humility, diplomacy, and leadership. Yes, indeed, the pixie dust here at Navy was some powerful stuff. When I started here in 1966, the Brigade of Midshipmen was about 4,000 strong, not that much different than it is today. Unlike today, though, there were only 20 mids who looked like me at that time. 8 in the 3 classes ahead of me, and 12 in my class of 1970. And there were no women. Diversity really didn't exist here. In my 4 years at the boat school, except for swimming sub-squad, and some of you can identify with that, I was the only one who looked like me in any of my classes. But that stark environment worked out okay, because every day of every year for 4 years, I was learning to not only survive, but to thrive in a world that was not at all like the world that I grew up in. Every year, my fellow black midshipmen and I grew more confident in our ability to fully compete and be really good, competent young officers. Here at Navy, we really learned the value of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we learned it in ways that most of the brigade did not and could not. Fact is, most of the brigade who didn't look like me were living and learning in a very homogenized world where everyone looked alike and where most shared a common culture. But the Navy and the Marine Corps that we would serve and be young officers in was anything but homogenized. It goes without saying that most of my classmates and almost all of the brigade at the time were outstanding Americans, absolutely outstanding Americans. But you know, I think I might have had just a little edge when I graduated and went into the world. That edge was because of my nearly unique diversity, equity, and inclusion experience here at Navy. What the Academy taught me and my fellow black midshipmen was how to lead diverse teams. And most of the brigade had to learn that on the fly. That on-the-job diversity, equity, and inclusion training sometimes presented painful challenges with regard to fairness and excellence. It did so because if you were not regularly interacting with folks who don't look like you, then you perhaps are not able to make the best of the relationships that you're dealing with. When I was in 1st Battalion, 11th Marines at Camp Pendleton, I'd often talk with the enlisted Marines. And for those of color, I would too often hear that they did have concerns about whether they would be fairly evaluated. And at the time, I promised I would do everything I could to make sure that that was the case. So for the brigade, here's what I ask you. While you're here at Navy, actively seek the company of midshipmen who don't look like you, or think like you, or act like you. That's a hard ask, but a crucial one. Learn to respect, to be comfortable with, and to appreciate what folks who are different than you bring to the table. Marvin Gaye would have said it like this: talk to me so you can see what's going on. Yeah, what's going on. One other thing. All of you will enjoy a reasonable level of success in the future, and you'll be presented with surprising opportunities. Seize those opportunities and use them to help build a better world. I am empathetic by nature, sometimes to a fault. I have a soft spot for underserved and underappreciated communities. Me being asked to serve as Medifast Take Shape for Life CEO and Chairman, and on the boards of Marine Corps Toys for Tots, Navy Mutual Aid, the Reginald Lewis Museum, Simple Generosity, and the Medal of Honor Leadership and Education Center were all wonderful and gratifying surprises for me. Add to that the Naval Academy Foundation and our Alumni Association, and you see in me a life fully fulfilled. My charge to you is find something really worth caring about and do what you can do to make a difference for it. Be sure to have the Alumni Association on your list. With that, I'm done.
From the class of 1975, Mr. Ronald L. Nickel.
Ronald L. Nichol was born June 30th, 1953 in Frostburg, Maryland, to parents Ronald and Laverne, and was raised with his brother Wayne. His father worked at a dairy and his mother at a grocery store. Ron's interest in the Navy was inspired by his father, who dropped out of high school to serve as a sailor in World War II. Although Ron was advised by his guidance counselor that nobody from his hometown would be appointed to the academy, he applied anyway. At the Naval Academy, Ron excelled in leadership and academics. He was Brigade Honor Coordinator and 1st Battalion Commander. Ranked 7th in his class, he was on the Superintendent's list every semester. He was inducted into the Sigma Pi Sigma National Physics Honor Society and was the recipient of the Congressional Medal of Honor Society Prize for Academic Excellence. The Lucky Bag noted, "Ron is a good friend who will be remembered for all he did for his buddies." After graduation, Ron launched a career in nuclear power, starting with an assignment in plasma physics development at the Naval Research Laboratory. Following nuclear power school, he reported to the ballistic missile submarine USS Mariano G. Vallejo, where he earned his Gold Dolphins and was awarded a Navy Achievement Medal. Due to his exemplary performance and engineering skills, he was selected as an instructor at the Naval Nuclear Power School. In 1982, he transitioned to a corporate career, starting at Babcox & Wilcox, where he was recognized as a gifted engineer and manager. Within 5 years, he was promoted to senior management and led the company's nuclear fuel manufacturing unit. He then joined Boston Consulting Group, where he remained for 28 years. Achieving partner status in 4 years, he served in numerous major leadership roles. He rose to the firm's highest level of partnership as one of 14 partners to ever reach that status. Ron held more leadership roles than any other partner at BCG. During his tenure at BCG, the firm grew from $90 million in revenue to $9 billion when he retired. Ron led the Boston Consulting Group to unparalleled success as a global leader in strategy, technology, and large-scale transformation. Ron was personally praised for his consulting capabilities by high-profile corporations such as Cisco, DuPont, Ford, Dell, American Airlines, and Sabre. Throughout his career, he did his best to practice the ideals of duty, honor, and loyalty, while attributing much of his success to the tenets of leadership and teamwork he learned at the Naval Academy. At Duke University Fuqua School of Business, Ron received an MBA with a 4.0 GPA and was later elected chairman of the Board of Visitors. He led the school to the #1 ranked business school in the U.S. by Business Week and established a scholarship for veterans. Ron's reputation for innovation and corporate accomplishments has led to his membership on numerous boards with a focus on companies using innovative technologies. This includes Nubaru, Austin Industries, Exxon Technology, Tritium Private Equity Funds, Enzu Funds, and Catalyze Dallas. In 2016, Ron accepted a volunteer position to direct the agency action team for the U.S. presidential transition. He assembled and led a team of over 300 volunteers to enable the smooth transition of federal government agencies. Ron has continuously supported and advocated for the Naval Academy and alumni over his naval and corporate careers. He serves on the Naval Academy Foundation's Board of Directors and is a significant donor. He has helped equip Hopper Hall with state-of-the-art technology for cyber studies and is a trustee of the Naval Academy Foundation's athletic and scholarship programs. Ron currently resides in Frisco, Texas with his wife, Leanne. They have 2 children and 5 grandchildren. His family is his most cherished personal accomplishment, while he considers graduation from the United States Naval Academy as his most meaningful professional accomplishment. Mr. Ronald L. Nichol, innovative leader, modeling the tenets learned at the U.S. Naval Academy to be successful in submarines, in business, and in life.
No man is an island. These words were written 399 years ago by John Donne, the English poet. I first read those words over 50 years ago as a plebe here at the Naval Academy. What they say to me is, any success I've enjoyed in life is because of the people I've had the opportunity to work with. So before I address my remarks to the brigade, I'd like to say a few thank yous. First and foremost, to my family. My lovely wife, Leanne, of 47 years, has stood by me and supported me 100% in my career. Thank you, Leanne. Thank you to my two daughters, Kimberly and Katie, their husbands, Ty and John. We're blessed with 5 wonderful grandchildren who are here this weekend. My grandson Conrad is here at this event and will be at the dinner tonight as part of my not-so-subtle recruiting program. Thank you, Admiral Harris and the DGA committee. This is the most important recognition I will receive in my life. To Admiral Buck, it's been a pleasure getting to know you over the last few years. You've done a fantastic job as a superintendent and guided the Academy through a very difficult pandemic. Admiral Ferguson, thank you for your leadership of the Alumni Association. Thank you, Jeff Webb, as the CEO of our Alumni Association and Foundation. You've hit the ground running, just what we would expect from a Navy SEAL. Admiral Gary Jones, the Vice President of our class. Gary was responsible for putting my package together for this award and clearly has the ability to turn a sow's ear into a silk purse. To Chris Chikanovich, our class president, thank you for your support and thank you for all you do for our class. My roommates, for giving me grief for literally over 50 years. It's always been well-deserved, but always in good fun. Doug Ayers, Mike Meyer, and Dan Murphy. I'm deeply touched that 15 of our 20 graduating company mates have come to this event from all over the country. These are some of my dearest friends. And lastly, to the class of 1975, as Hein Lentz would say, are you out there, 75? Please stand up. Stand up! The Naval Academy is an institution in the most positive sense of the word. It has existed long before any of us in this room were born, and God willing will exist long after we're gone. Being part of something bigger and more durable than ourselves puts life in perspective. In the words of Kenny Chesney, don't blink, 50 years goes faster than you think. It's been over 50 years since we graduated, but we vividly remember the challenges we faced when we were here, and we resonate to the challenges you face today. I'd like to tell you a little bit about our class to give you a feel for what you might see over the next 50 years. Our class yielded 24 flag officers, 2 4-stars, John Greenert, Chief of Naval Operations, and Kirk Donnell, our very own Admiral Rickover. We lost 8 classmates in the line of duty, including 1 astronaut. We have world-class doctors, excellent and very successful corporate executives. We have religious leaders, and numerous members of our class have started foundations for charitable causes. We also have a record that you will not surpass. Our class got to the top of Herndon, which was greased, in 20 minutes. And my company mate, Mike Maynard, is here that made it to the top. Now let me tell you a little bit about you. I had the opportunity last year, working with the superintendent and Steve Vossen, to do some deep strategic analysis of the brigade and the Naval Academy. And we started with some very difficult hypotheses and collected facts to analyze the brigade and the Naval Academy. We even got data back to 1900 to do this analysis. First, I would say, you're an amazing group. The capability of the midshipmen today is unsurpassed. Your academic, leadership, and athletic accomplishments are many. You will graduate women at a higher rate than the current fleet profile. You will graduate a higher percentage of diversity midshipmen than our peer schools. You will have a much lower attrition rate than we had. The attrition rate of our class was 39%. We had people that show up plebe year not knowing you had to wear a uniform at the Naval Academy. The Academy is much more selective and has very high standards. You are multi-dimensional individuals, and you are very success-oriented. For those in the audience that don't know, the Naval Academy is rated the #1 top public school in the country. It's the #4 top engineering school, and it's the #6 top liberal arts school. While our past is certain, you face a very uncertain future. The world is in a very volatile state right now. You will be faced with solving the problem with China and numerous other national security issues we're dealing with. You will be the leaders of our country for the decades ahead. One of my favorite quotes is "Luck favors the prepared mind," paraphrased from Louis Pasteur. The Naval Academy does an excellent job of preparing our minds for success. I spent the last few decades working with global corporations creating sustainable competitive advantage. The Academy created personal competitive advantage in me as it will you. It came in the form of conceptual thinking. It came in the form of leadership and discipline. I learned how to think here, not what to think. The Academy taught me how to lead. You will hear a lot about leadership in your 4 years here. It will be a differentiator for you in your life. Your leadership will be tested many times. Mine was tested very early in my career. After completing my nuclear power training in submarine school, I reported to the USS MG Vallejo. As I walked to the ship, I was met at the brow by Master Chief Davis, who gave me a sharp salute and said, "Sir, welcome aboard, you're my new boss. I'd like to take you aft and introduce you to your crew." So we go aft, and the reactor controls division was assembled, and Chief Davis reached into a bag and said, "Sir, the first thing we want to do is issue your tools." And I'm thinking, this is great. Not only am I going to be able to boss these guys around, but I'm going to be able to work on the equipment. He reached in and pulled out a pair of pliers with a broken jaw. He reached into the bag and pulled out a screwdriver with a broken blade. And he said, "Sir, if you touch the equipment with anything other than this, we'll break your damn arm." Luckily, I had learned at the Naval Academy that leadership is about respect, not power. And I developed a very good relationship with Master Chief Davis. He became one of my first mentors in the Navy, and I got along very well with the crew. Your academic training will be an advantage as well. I've used what I've learned here many, many times over the years. Last year, I had the opportunity to spend a day at the Academic Center and sat in on a number of sessions. As it so happens, one of the sessions was on Le Chatelier's principle. Now, all of you, I'm sure, remember from your chemistry class what Le Chatelier's principle was. It's basically a concept that says if you take a system in equilibrium and you apply forces, the system will rearrange itself to relieve the forces. Well, I developed a comprehensive change management program for major corporations based on that concept, and it's very successful to this day. Not everyone will appreciate all the wonderful things you learn here. Leanne and I were having dinner in Dallas with a friend, and it was a hot new restaurant. We're standing outside the restaurant after dinner, and I said, "Do you realize that if Einstein's field equations have an oscillating solution, trillions and trillions of years from now, we could be standing right here?" He looked at me and he said, "I don't think so, I didn't like the food." Just to wrap up, I hope for you and your future that the Naval Academy will mean as much to you and create as much success in your life as it has in mine. Enjoy what you're doing and always remain curious.
From the class of 1976, Admiral James G. Stavridis.
James G. Stavridis was born February 15, 1955 in West Palm Beach, Florida, to parents George and Shirley. His father was a colonel in the Marine Corps and later was president of Allegheny College. Jim was raised with his sister Ann. He wanted to follow his father's footsteps, serving our country, so he chose to attend the Naval Academy for a difficult challenge. Jim excelled at the academy, where he played varsity squash, was brigade operation officer, and made the superintendent's list for 3 years while ranking 19th in his class. A talented writer, he was editor-in-chief of The Log and a columnist for Shipmate magazine. The Lucky Bag noted that Jim tore through those brief 4 years, constantly seeking new experiences. He will excel at all he does. After graduation, Jim embarked on a career as a surface warfare officer, starting aboard the destroyer USS Hewitt and aircraft carrier USS Forrestal. After earning a PhD in international law from the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University, he served as operations officer on the USS Valley Forge and XO on the USS Antietam during Desert Storm. At the Pentagon, Jim was on the CNO executive panel and was later a special assistant to the Secretary of the Navy. Jim's first command was on the guided missile destroyer USS Barry in 1993, which deployed in combat operations off the Balkans. He led his ship to win the Battenberg Cup as the top ship in the Atlantic Fleet. As Commodore of Destroyer Squadron 21, he deployed to the Arabian Gulf region as Sea Combat Commander. Jim was in the Pentagon, within feet of the 9/11 attack. As a one-star in the global war on terror, he was assigned by the CNO to lead the Navy's Strategic Planning Group, Deep Blue. Jim returned to sea as commander of the Enterprise Strike Group during combat operations in the Gulf region. He was promoted directly from 1 to 3-star rank and was assigned as Senior Military Assistant to the Secretary of Defense during the height of wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Next, he became the first admiral in charge of the U.S. Southern Command, which helped defeat terrorists in Colombia and stop hundreds of tons of narcotics from entering the U.S. Jim was also the first, and so far the only admiral, to serve as the Supreme Allied Commander of NATO. He led over 200,000 troops in combat in Afghanistan, the Balkans, and Libya, as well as counter-piracy off the coast of Africa. Over his Navy career, Jim received 50 international military decorations, 28 from foreign nations. He was also honored with the Navy League's John Paul Jones Award for Inspirational Leadership and the Alfred Thayer Mahan Award for Literary Achievement. After his retirement in 2013, Jim served 5 years as Dean of the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University, where he earned his PhD as a lieutenant. He is now Vice Chair of Global Affairs at the Carlyle Group. He has served on numerous boards, including Chairman for the Rockefeller Foundation and Chairman for the U.S. Naval Institute. Jim is an accomplished author. He has written more than 2,000 professional articles, is a weekly columnist for Bloomberg Opinion, and has written 12 books, including Command at Sea and Watch Officer's Guide, which are the heart of the seagoing profession. He has also written a best-selling novel, 2034, which has been published in 22 languages. As Chief International Analyst for NBC News, he has made over 3,000 national media appearances. In addition, he has given 4 Forrestal lectures, a TED Talk with nearly 1 million hits, and 7 commencement speeches at leading universities. Jim supports the Academy through appearances at conferences, participating in Navy squash events, writing articles, and providing letters of recommendation for midshipman candidates. Jim's most cherished personal accomplishment is his marriage to Laura. 2 terrific daughters, Christina and Julia, a Navy nurse married to an Annapolis graduate, and 6 grandchildren. Reflecting on his career, his most meaningful accomplishments are winning the Battenberg Cup as a sea captain, serving as 16th Supreme Allied Commander NATO, commander of U.S. Southern Command, and finally, the 12 books he's written on leadership, character, and the oceans. Admiral James G. Stavridis, an extraordinary naval combat leader, renowned national voice and scribe of the naval profession, and accomplished educator, author, and ambassador for the U.S. Naval Academy.
Well, good afternoon. Let me begin by getting this mic down to the height of a normal person. Yeah. I actually want to begin to the brigade by just saying, hey, it's Friday afternoon and this thing is looking like it's going to run 2 hours. I apologize. It is a delight to be with you, and I will keep this very, very brief. I do want to begin, as my fellow awardees have, by simply saying thank you to so many. I'm going to start with my dad, a colonel of Marines. I almost went into the Marine Corps and ended up being diverted by Admiral Bob Natter and Admiral Mike Mullen, company officers here, who inspired me to be a SWO. Never looked back, but I cherish my time as a Marine junior. I also have to thank my class, proud class of 76, the bicentennial class, my class president, Kevin Stone, and my dear friend and classmate, Paul Johnson, who nominated me for this award. What means the most about this award, and I know all of us would say it, is that it comes from your classmates. Nothing is more important than that. And finally, I want to thank my beautiful wife, Laura, my daughters, Christina and Julia, who are here. Laura, you have sailed with me every day of this. I love you. Thank you. For the brigade, I have 4 quick pieces of advice. And they simply stem from sitting down and saying, what did I wish I knew when I was 18, 19, 20, 21 years old and sat where you are? And these 4 things may or may not surprise you. The first, and it's paid off for me again and again and again, stay fit, stay healthy, work out, rest. The closest my career came to ending suddenly was in the Suez Canal when I was a young ship captain in my mid-30s, and I had driven myself to the point of exhaustion. And as we sailed south through the Suez Canal, I found I didn't have in the tank what I needed. I was very lucky that day. My navigator, brilliant young Lieutenant Rob Chadwick, went on to be a commandant here at Annapolis, now an admiral, saved the day. What I learned was be in good shape, Sleep can be a weapon for you. Stay fit. Number 2, never lose your temper. Never lose your temper. And that's easy to say. It's hard to do. We all are gifted with different personalities and flashpoints. But I assure you of this. When you lose your temper as a leader, when you raise your voice, when you demean others, their mind goes white. It's just white noise. And whatever you're trying to accomplish will fail. And I saw that again and again in my career working for some very tough officers who did not control their temper, who shall remain nameless. But I'll close with this. Perhaps the greatest book of leadership ever written is The Godfather by Mario Puzo. And you may recall in it that Don Corleone, is counseling his hot-headed son, Santino. And he says to him, never make the mistake of hating your enemies. It clouds your judgment. Anger will cloud your judgment. As a leader, never lose your temper. Third thing, cherish innovation. Cherish innovation. As was mentioned in the video, after 9/11, the CNO and then Vice Admiral Mike Mullen asked me to head up an innovation think tank. We called it Deep Blue. And it got uncomfortable as we pursued new ideas. There are always established constituencies who will try and claw back, who don't want to seize the new. Be part of that innovation. Be part of change. We count on you, your youth, your energy, what you will bring to the fleet to drive change. Cherish innovation. And fourth and finally, I will say to you, to the midshipmen here, everything will change when you graduate from this place. Life accelerates. Up till now, the gorgeous trajectory of your lives has been, in general, pretty predictable. You studied hard. You played sports. You did service. You applied. You came to this magnificent institution. Everything's kind of worked out, right? You're about to take the con on your own life, and the seas are going to change very suddenly in front of you again and again and again. And in my own career, that happened many, many times. No moment more striking than 9/11. I was on the E-ring, the outer ring of the Pentagon, when the aircraft struck the building. And as I stumbled out of that smoke-filled fire onto that grassy knoll, when the real heroes of the day, the first responders, showed up, what went through my mind was the immensity of the change and the irony that here I was in the safest place in the world, right? I'm in the Pentagon, massive concrete walls guarded by the strongest military on earth in the capital of the richest country on the planet. Was I safe? No. Everything changed, and it will change for you. In every office I've had a picture on the wall of the USS Maine. Remember the Maine, 1898, USS Maine blows up in Havana Harbor. And there's a long backstory to that, but I keep that picture there to remind me that at any moment, your ship can blow up under your feet. Be ready for change. That's my fourth and final thought for you. So I'll close with a quote, because everything I've mentioned to you today, I think, is important and useful. But if you remember nothing else from our brief time together this afternoon, I'll ask you to remember this quote. It's from Napoleon. I love to quote Napoleon for possibly obvious reasons. Remember this. Napoleon said, "A leader is a dealer in hope." A leader is a dealer in hope, not in fear, not in anger, not in frustration. A leader is a dealer in hope. Be that kind of leader. Be that kind of officer. Be that kind of citizen. I'm proud of you. Thank you very much.
From the class of 1977, Rear Admiral Julius S. Caesar.
Julius S. Caesar, J.C., was born October 23, 1954, in Radford, Virginia, to parents Powell and Leora. His father ran a dry cleaning and tailoring business. His family moved to Cleveland, Ohio, where he was raised with his brother Powell. He played football throughout high school, and after a visit from a Navy football scout, his aspirations were to serve his country and participate in Navy sports. He went to boot camp at Great Lakes and then the Naval Academy Preparatory School before joining the brigade. As a midshipman, he realized his goal to play on the Navy football team, which beat Army all 4 years. He was also 3rd Battalion sub-commander in his first-class year and was on the honor set. The Lucky Bag recognized J.C. for his warm personality and said his capacity for compassion and sincerity toward others was surpassed only by a deep sense of moral conviction. After graduation, he was assigned recruiter duty in Cleveland, then to the destroyer USS Dale, where he qualified as a surface warfare officer. On the aircraft carrier John F. Kennedy, he served as a tactical action officer. J.C. transitioned to the Navy Reserves in 1983 to be closer to his family. He commanded 4 reserve units, including a personnel mobilization team, Surface Warfare Development Group, Office of the Chief of Naval Operations Surface Warfare Division, and Naval Inspector General Detachment 106. As a flag select, he was handpicked for Admiral Mullen's C&O transition team and served on the Secretary of Defense Reserve Forces Policy Board. His first flag assignment in 2003 was leading the establishment of the Navy Installation Command as its deputy commander. J.C. returned to active duty as Vice Director of Joint Concept Development and Experimentation for the U.S. Joint Forces Command. He was in a directorate that led the merger of live, virtual, and constructive training environments. In his final Navy assignment, he was Deputy Director of the Joint and Coalition Warfare Joint Staff. In 2011, J.C. retired after 34 years of naval service. He received numerous prestigious medals and awards, including the first to receive the National Organization of Blacks in Government Military Meritorious Service Award in 2006. J.C. also had a thriving civilian career that paralleled his reserve service. He served in public and private companies, increasing revenue and earnings growth, starting as an engineer with Booz Allen Hamilton. He then spent nearly 20 years at EDO Corporation, where he advanced through leadership positions from engineer to sector vice president, managing multiple business units that provided electronic technology and engineering for high-performance aircraft to IT services. He is currently an executive with NetApp, a global leader in data management, AI, and cloud computing. JC's expertise is sought after by national leaders and institutions. He is a strategic advisor with veteran-owned Academy Securities, where he provides geopolitical insight. He is a trustee for the Naval War College Foundation and served on the naming panel for the new Gerald R. Ford-class aircraft carrier USS Dory Miller. He is also an honorary trustee for the USS Cleveland Legacy Foundation and established a scholarship in his mother's name for the National Naval Officers Association. JC has been a career-long leader and advisor supporting the Naval Academy. As a trustee for athletic and scholarship programs and member of the Alumni Association Admissions Committee, he led efforts to promote and establish scholarships, awards, and policies to advance the inclusion and empowerment of minority groups and women who have been historically underrepresented in the naval service. JC established the U.S. Naval Academy Minority Association and serves as its president and executive director. The Shared Interest Group assists high school students with financial aid and scholarships for those aspiring to attend Annapolis, and midshipmen through mentoring and sponsoring outreach events, and helps underserved high school students through STEM programs. JC currently resides in Northern Virginia. He has 2 children and 5 grandchildren, of whom he is most proud. Professionally, what means the most to him is seeing those who he has mentored succeed through graduations, promotions, and leadership responsibility, and especially those who are rising to the challenge of leading the Naval Academy Minority Association. Rear Admiral Julius Caesar, a compassionate leader and mentor in the military and as a civilian, driving opportunity for all aspiring leaders who continues to serve actively in our community and nation.
Admiral Stavridis, I'm not going to drop the mic, but I'm going to have to move it, sir. And I'm going to get this out here right now. There we go. To the brigade, you're the greatest student body on the planet. These young men and women are the best and brightest that our nation has to offer. Let's give these young leaders a round of applause. But as a midshipman who thinks like one, I know what you're thinking. I'm your 4th speaker this afternoon and standing between dinner and weekend activities, but y'all gonna still have to listen to me. My remarks will focus on 3 principles, which are gratitude, giving back, and resilience. And I wouldn't be a Naval Academy graduate without having a formula to share, which is F cubed equals R, or F times F times F equals R. But I'll get to that when I close. You'll need that to be an effective warfighter and in life. Now, I know my classmates are astonished that a 2.0 student, I came up with a formula okay, it was 2.3. I had to have a little gravy, guys, come on. But I know my classmates and some of you in the front row that I came up with a formula on my own. Always be grateful and thankful for what you have and demonstrate a grateful spirit. And in keeping with that principle, I'd like to thank Vice Admiral Buck, Admiral Ferguson, Jeff Webb, Admiral Harry Harris, and the DGA Selection Committee for selecting me. But also, I'd like to thank Ms. Zan McConnell and the protocol team and Wes Huey, who made a lot of this possible, all the seating and the way that you helped me. Thank you so much. You've heard it. That's that gratitude part. Remember, I'm talking in threes. You've heard it before, but I'm profoundly humbled to be standing before you today. There are no words to express what I'm feeling right now, and it's emotional, and that's why I'm reading so I can stay focused. To the great class of 1977, thank you for nominating me. 77 is the greatest class that ever graduated from the Naval Academy, but I'm biased. We have 4-star admirals. You've heard some of the lists before. We've got a Blue Angel. We've got PhDs, astronauts, doctors, lawyers, very successful businessmen in our class. But several years ago, in keeping with some of the things that General Williams was talking about, something else is not known about the class of 77 is that CNO Zumwalt, Hayward, and Holloway had a vision. And that vision was we needed a more diverse officer corps to more reflect our enlisted population, and we didn't have it at that time. And the class of 1977 was the first class in the era of diversity where 125 African-American midshipmen entered the Naval Academy. 62 of us graduated. And I'm so glad to be the first DGA in our class. So for you 2.0 students, if you work 45 years, you too can be number one. One of the strongest bonds in your life and source of encouragement will be your classmates. I'm often asked by midshipmen how I made it through the academy. My quick answer is get a really smart roommate with a girlfriend who has a car. That's a true statement. My roommate, Bill Millward, helped solve my differential equations upside down while looking across her desk, and Jane used to pick us up on weekends and take us to Burger King. When I was assigned to Joint Forces Command in Suffolk, Virginia, Jerry Miller always managed to meet me for lunch despite his busy schedule. And I'm mentioning some of these folks because that's who you need to emulate. You have to emulate them for this long line to continue, this long blue line to continue. I'm blessed to have classmates like Captain Charles Ivey and his wife, Dr. Frances Ivey, who are steadfast friends and who have supported me. They have extended their love and support to my children and now my grandchildren. I have Rob Earhart here from my first ship, the USS Dale, that drove up from Florida. But these are just examples of how classmates, shipmates, and lifelong friends become a powerful influence and anchor in your life to provide that key element of resilience. I'm thankful for so many mentors and sterling examples of honor, courage, and commitment, to include those on stage. And my mentor, Admiral Mike Mullen. He's the class of 68. He was the 17th chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the 28th Chief of Naval Operations, and he's guided my careers and that of others for many years. Thank you, Admiral. Thank you, sir, for being here. Admirals Paul Reason, Bob Natter, and Tom Lynch are key mentors who inspired me. Byron Marchant brilliantly led our Alumni Association for 13 years and was a visionary. Vice Admiral John Cotton and Rear Admiral Sonny Masso guided my Navy Reserve career. But my best mentor is Lieutenant John Rex Spivey. In fact, there you are, John, right there, out of the class of 13, okay? Come on now. I think like a midshipman, I gotta keep it real, and I got the mic too. But he's from Arkansas. He taught me about generational leadership. All the other officers I talked about were from the 60s, okay? They preceded me. They provided an example. But as I've gotten older, more senior, I needed someone to get me in touch with the junior officers, what was going on with that, so I could become a more effective leader, okay? So I could become a more, and that's something that you will have to do throughout your careers as well. John Rex demonstrated honor, courage, and commitment in 2020 during time of national turmoil in our nation and in our Alumni Association. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention my NetApp family that's here, that's led by Vice President Michelle Rudnicki. And thanks for allowing me to give back and do the things to an institution that I love so much, but also to our nation as well. I'm grateful for my children, Chris and Jessica, and their spouses, Megan and Jamal. Wave, everybody, so they know who you are, okay? I really thank them because they gave me my 5 grandchildren that you saw up there. They've grown up to have great families. They are the epitome of unconditional love. We like to have fun, laugh, and take family vacations. They used to say, "Go Army," to get under my skin when they were little, and they almost didn't survive. We've grown closer over the years, and I'd like to thank them for being here. I also want to thank their mother, Karen, who raised them, particularly when I was traveling. My cousin, the Honorable Judge Kay Christian, and her husband, Ricky, and twin sister, Faye, and her husband, Mackie, are here. Their mother, my Aunt Alice, lived in Washington, D.C., so I had a home on weekends and good cooking. I wouldn't have made it through Annapolis without that respite. I failed miserably in teaching them statistics, as well as them trying to teach me fine social skills like dancing. You may not appreciate it now, but over time you'll realize how much the Academy has done for you. I encourage you to give back as soon as you can by attending local chapters, participating in class projects, and support shipmate articles, among other things. I'm honored to lead your U.S. Naval Academy Minority Association. It's a way for alumni to give back to our beloved institution. NAMA supports Dean Latta and admissions through STEM outreach and the Chief Diversity Officer, Captain Herb Lacey, with midshipman activities. NAMA does it all. They're out there not because it's feel good, they're out there trying to get the next students who are going to fill your spots. And we go into the schools and we teach STEM, and we take young officers with them so that they have a vision for the future, so that they can apply to this institution, because it's important. When I'm no longer here, we want to make sure that the brigade is here, all the officers and things that are here, because we need leadership in our country. And someone who gives back is Mr. Nelson Jones, who's one of our chief philanthropists here. He's out of the class of 72, but he has a passion and a heart for what we're doing. And so he may not go out on all the STEM programs and things like that, but he enables us to do the things that we do. I want you all to think about how you're going to give back to this institution. I know it's hard when you're going out there on active duty in your first assignment, but that is so hard. But I'm here today because of NAMA's hard work. They have full-time jobs, families, but work so hard on behalf of our Alumni Association. NAMA is planning our second leadership forum on April 28th and 29th, just in a few short weeks, and I invite you all to attend. To my NAMA family, I can't name you all, but thank you so much. I'm often asked by midshipmen, how did I get promoted to Admiral? I asked that myself. There's no simple answer. But as I look back at the components of my personal journey, it continues, and now I'll talk about those 3 F's in the R. Faith, family, and friends equals resilience. Faith, family, and friends equals resilience. Someone who epitomizes faith and resilience is distinguished graduate, Miss Janie Mines, the first African-American woman to graduate from USNA in 1990. Come on, wave at me, Janie, wave. There you go. All right. In closing, I'd like to share my personal journey to Annapolis, which almost didn't happen. I vividly remember being an 18-year-old midshipman candidate when my father was diagnosed with cancer during my second semester at NAPS. He passed a few weeks before my NAPS graduation in May of 1973, and 6 weeks before my induction into the Naval Academy, and this next part will be difficult. But I want to share something with me because to show you that I can still relate. I might have this gray beard, but I relate to you in the brigade. What was I to do? Should I continue at the Naval Academy or go back home to Cleveland to help take care of my mother and my service-disabled uncle who lived with us? That's where faith, family, and friends and shipmates helped me to be resilient. Those early years as a plebe and youngster were a tough time. First, my mom, who was a great Christian woman, sacrificed and would have none of it and insisted that I stay in the Navy. She took a job cleaning other people's homes to support herself. Second, the Moore family, who lived across the street from us in Saywell, came to the rescue and looked after my mother and uncle for over 40 years until my mother passed. Ms. Benita Moore Bryant, who's here with us today, was a young girl at the time. She lived with my mother to help her overcome her loss. And that close relationship continues for 50 years as her daughter, Jessica, is here as well. Members of the Cordick family are here. They came from Cleveland. Mr. John Cordick, their father, became a father figure to me and kept my picture prominently displayed in his home office. I always wanted to make him proud. And lastly, our church provided encouragement and support to my family while I was away. They wrote letters and made sure that I wore my uniform when I came home. When things got tough, my mother reminded me of the Navy hymn to bolster my faith, perseverance, and resilience. She later told me she prayed and listened to the Navy hymn during my initial deployments at sea when I was on active duty. I encourage you to read the entire hymn as your homework assignment, as it has inspired me. I'll close by dedicating the first stanza to her, and I'm not going to sing like General Williams because I can't sing. But if you remember, please join me in reciting this first stanza as I dedicate it to her. Eternal Father, strong to save, whose arm has bound the restless wave, who bids the mighty ocean deep its own appointed limits keep. Oh, hear us when we cry to thee for those in peril on the sea. Thank you very much for this incredible Army. Go Navy.
From the class of 1978, Admiral Cecil D. Haney.
Cecil D. Haney was born December 1st, 1955 in Washington, D.C. to parents Jesse and Ella. He was raised with two sisters, Yvette and Yvonne. His mother was a seamstress and his father worked for the Greyhound Bus Company and served as a taxi driver. Cecil had planned to enlist in the Army and save enough money to attend medical school. His father, who had served in the Army during World War II, did not like that plan. During high school, he interned at the Naval Sea Systems Command, where he received mentoring from a Navy captain who exposed Cecil to officer programs. He sought and received an appointment to the Naval Academy. As a midshipman, Cecil played various intramural sports, was in the pep band, the Yard Patrol Squadron, a dance band called the Variations, and served as a DJ for the WRNV Academy radio station. The Lucky Bag recognized Cecil as someone who is known for getting involved in any and everything. After graduation, Cecil married Bonnie just before starting training for his career in the submarine service. His first assignment at sea was division officer aboard the USS John C. Calhoun, where he earned his Gold Dolphins. Next, he received his surface warfare officer qualification aboard the submarine tender USS Frank Cable. Then he returned to submarines as engineering officer on the USS Hyman G. Rickover, an XO of the USS Asheville. After serving as Assistant Squadron Deputy for Submarine Squadron 8, he assumed command of the USS Honolulu in 1996. He led a crew of outstanding sailors on two demanding Western Pacific deployments. Cecil commanded Submarine Squadron 1, followed by command of Submarine Group 2. Among his many shore duties, he served as Congressional Appropriations Liaison Officer for the Office of the Secretary of Defense, also as Deputy Chief of Staff of Plans, Policies, and Requirements for the Pacific Fleet. He directed the Submarine Warfare Division and the Naval Warfare Integration Group. He then served as Deputy Commander of the U.S. Strategic Command. As Admiral in 2012, he assumed duties as Commander of the United States Pacific Fleet, the largest fleet in the Navy. His leadership was critical in deploying naval forces in a pivot to the Pacific and deter Chinese aggression. He finally served as Commander of the United States Strategic Command, where he drove modernization and enhanced readiness of nuclear, cyber, and space forces. He advocated for complex deterrence strategies against adversaries, along with options in case deterrence failed. Cecil retired from the Navy in 2016. He earned numerous awards over his career, including the Navy Distinguished Service Medal, the Defense Superior Service Medal, the Legion of Merit, and the Stockdale Award for Inspirational Leadership. He also broke barriers as the first black four-star submariner, Pacific Fleet Commander, and Commander of Strategic Command. Cecil is sought after by Fortune 500 companies and other organizations. He served on boards and advisory councils throughout the aerospace, defense, and research industries. They include university-affiliated research centers at Johns Hopkins and Penn State universities and co-chairs of the China-U.S. Strategic Nuclear Dynamics Dialogue. He is a founding member of the Centennial Seven, composed of the first 7 black submarine commanding officers. They provide mentoring to interested midshipmen and officers serving in the Navy's nuclear power program in their Navy careers and beyond. Cecil is a mentor of candidates, midshipmen, and young officers up to flag rank. He has served for decades as a Blue and Gold officer in Washington, D.C., and serves on the Service Academy Selection Board for Congresswoman Norton. For the Foundation Board, he served as vice chairman and frequently participates in Academy-sponsored events. Cecil currently resides in the Washington, D.C. area. He has 3 children and 3 grandchildren. He considers the opportunity to command at various levels to be his most meaningful accomplishment, especially on the USS Honolulu, command of the Pacific Fleet, and U.S. Strategic Command. Admiral Cecil D. Haney, an accomplished Navy commander and leader who continues to serve our Navy, our Naval Academy, and our nation.
Well, good evening. And this is like we've gone through the 4th quarter, but we had to go into overtime. And you get me. And I recognize I am really the last thing between you and the end of this program. So I think I should get started. But first, since I was sitting on that chair, no cushion, I'm going to ask all of you to stand up if you're able for 1 second, get the blood flowing, and then sit back down. And I'll take a sentence off my speech for that. All right. Well, it is truly my delight to once again be here at the Academy. I'm humbled and I'm honored. Superintendent Sean Buck, thank you for your incredible leadership. Well, I thank God first for being here, and I thanks to all those involved in my selection, especially my classmates who pushed my nomination. Particularly Joe Leidig, Bob Schumerman, and Ray Luvano, who worked with me there for getting the write-up, etc. But also I want to salute Harry Harris and, of course, Mark Ferguson that's up here. Anyone out there from the great, great class of 1978? Thanks for being here, and thanks for being my classmates. I do want to salute today's and those DGAs previously recognized over the years, for I have been blessed by the collective leadership and mentorship of many of them. What is neat for me is that each of these awardees up here have touched my life in one way or the other. General Leo Williams and I served on that Military Leadership Diversity Commission well over a decade ago. I report to Congress where many of those recommendations are still applicable today. The iconic Admiral Stavridis, our many conversations, I thank you, and clearly I enjoy his books and his writings. Ron Nichols and I serve on the Naval Academy Foundation Board together. It's a pleasure working with him. And JC, Julius Caesar. He was responsible for that blind date I had back here at the Naval Academy with my late bride, Miss Bonnie. So he's distinguished in my eyes from the many years I had with Miss Bonnie. So thank you, JC. Way too many to recognize here that I've benefited from their leadership and their support and their mentorship. People like Admiral Rich Meese, Mike Mullen, Kirk Donald, Paul Reason, Larry Chambers, and just so many other Naval Academy graduates like Admiral Gary Ruffhead. Of course, I would not be here if it was not for the love and support I received from my family. Thank God for providing me what I needed in that regard. There are no coincidences. Miss Bonnie sacrificed her career and went with me tour after tour, providing me her love, but also her astute wisdom as a sociologist, and kept me grounded in just so many ways. Serving as a single parent as I disappeared under the waves. Noteworthy as each of my children faced significant medical issues. So JC, you did pretty good, even though when he introduced us, he told each one of us not to expect much from the other. We exceeded his expectation. My children, Elizabeth, Thomas, Joseph, are the delights in my life, who tolerated the disruptive nature of attending so many schools in different states over the years, two of them which I moved for their senior year in high school. This is why today I volunteered to serve on the board of the Military Child Education Coalition, because I've always had an earful from them on this, for Miss Bonnie and so many other military families, as we move them so many times, different states with their own individual graduation and passing requirements. The grandsons you saw in the picture there, TJ, Daniel, and Timmy, are of course the spark in my life today. There is nothing like hearing them call those magic words of Grandpa. My two siblings, Yvonne and Yvette. Yvonne, a retired school teacher, secondary school teacher, and a published author. And Yvette, retired from the Defense Intelligence Agency and now runs her own fitness instructor business, are here. And would you wave and be recognized? Now, I have sworn them to secrecy, as they have real stories about me growing up that I'd rather keep under the water, per se. But we are blessed as siblings to be the closest of siblings that I think exist on this earth. Now, my dad, he was a no-nonsense kind of individual when it came to valuing education, but fun in so many other aspects. And my mom was a prime example of biblical levels of the patience she exhibited and, of course, taught us. Both without the benefit of college education, but each of them pushed us to attend, with Yvonne completing her PhD. Now, my lady, Miss Pat, couldn't be here today as she had a medical issue here brewing over the week, but I know her spirit's with us, and I thank her for her love and support today. She's sort of Army tough, though, as a cavalry officer retiree. I thank all of them, and especially the men and women that I have had the privilege and continue to have the privilege to serve with. So to the brigade, this institution is all about developing your personal readiness for service. I hope and pray that you are taking advantage of every aspect of it. I've already talked about one thing, and that is about giving thanks. I have 3 things for you to consider tonight. Number 1, take advantage of opportunities with humility to build your character. You know, as a Naval Academy inductee in the beginning, I had come here in the category of gifted in not being able to swim, so I got inducted into swimming sub-squad, as was mentioned earlier today. Does it still exist, Superintendent?
Yes, sir, it does.
We have any, never mind, I won't ask that question out there. But needless to say, I did graduate from swimming sub-squad, but there was no distinction added to that graduation. But boy, did I grow up from the humbling experience that I would reflect whenever I would dive in the water out at sea in what we call swim calls. Yes, even from a submarine. Or maybe I could elaborate on my 5th jump during airborne parachute training that did not go so well. After badly bruising my feet due to an operator error, it caused me to slow down and think more deeply about service selection. The jump counted, though, and I did go off and do a couple more jumps. But I was humbled, of course, and yet another learning experience. Whatever we do, we can expect problems and setbacks that we must overcome, learn from them, and then get back in the fight. So my message here is for you to volunteer and experience at every opportunity you can while here, and also when you become that junior officer. You will never know how you will use it in the future. Now, my mother said, do all you can while you can. And while doing so, my dad would stress the importance of not getting a big head about ourselves. Sound advice, I think. So my second point is stay grounded. A question I often asked many who wanted to work for me was, how do you stay grounded? That usually got a pregnant pause, and then they would start talking. From my standpoint, only you can take stock of that, and you must examine if you are doing enough to create resiliency in this area. You must prevent groupthink and distractions from your moral compass. Your decisions now and as a commissioned officer will have consequences to the people that are on your team, to the mission, and perhaps our country's reputation. From those leaders already mentioned, and even my peers, and of course Miss Bonnie, and my various church families throughout my career, they helped reinforce that in me. And even today, in what I do, I still take a pause for midweek Bible study, which I lead, and singing in the choir to keep me grounded. Another question I would ask is, what are you reading? What activities do you participate in? What discussions are you involved in to help reinforce staying grounded? We must all work on this, and I would add we must have a battle buddy, no matter how junior or senior you are. You must also, as part of that, give back, as you've heard in the earlier discussions. Now, Kerwin Miller is out there somewhere, a Naval Academy grad, and I used to work for him as he was a senior Blue and Gold information officer when I was a young officer who gave me the opportunity to serve as one. You also saw the video of the Centennial 7, and I would ask in the audience today, Vice Admirals retired Bruce Grooms and Mel Williams, if you would wave your hand there and be recognized. Thank you. Both also Naval Academy graduates. Over the years, this group serves as a mentoring tool for this academy and the Navy at large, but it also gave us a venue to talk about real issues among ourselves. 7 and soon to be 21. Vance Scott is in the audience today, I think also. Can you wave your hand? Over there on the side. Soon to be commanding officer of the Nebraska. We've lost 3 of the 7, but these are reinforcements and release. The momentum has been established as we continue to keep each other grounded. So what's number 3? 3 is to be careful with an over-focus on establishing your legacy. Now, why do I bring this up? You see, competition is good and we focus it appropriately in so many areas. Sometimes interim success creates an over-focus on ourself or on our unit. Vice the mission. Mission success must be your focus. We are currently dealing with so much uncertainty in this complex world today that requires more than ever integrity, teamwork, and the integration of diverse opinions, talents, and forces operating simultaneously in multiple dimensions. What your legacy must be is to qualify quickly, assimilate into the team you are assigned, help build up the weaker links of the team, increase team resiliency, be an effective communicator, and be engaged to deliver. To do this, you must assess personal strengths and weaknesses, have a questioning attitude, and be able to encourage others, and be mission focused. You have so much more as midshipmen to consider than I did when I graduated, given the challenges of today in so many areas. I want to thank each of you for being part of the brigade, and may something we said today help you deal with the uncertainty in the future. Now, I'm a big believer that you should continually read, not just Admiral Stavridis books, but more. 3 areas I push: personal development and leadership development, history, and fiction. And I'll dwell on the last one for a minute, in that we need fiction to expand your mind in areas that generally don't fit in traditional military formation. Now, I am currently getting a twofer by starting to read the book by an individual I met a couple times as Commander Stratcom, and that was the Honorable Dr. Henry Kissinger. His most recent book is called Leadership: 6 Studies in World Strategy, where he vividly discusses 6 extraordinary 21st century leaders and their strategic leadership approaches. One of the 6, when asked how he wanted to be remembered, replied simply, quote, that he had done his duty, end quote. When you are in your ripe, mature age, I hope and pray that your legacy will reflect on you, that you have done your duty and have created mission success. Thanks again for the opportunity to be here tonight with you. May God bless you and continue to bless our nation. Beat Army.
Please join us in one more round of applause for the 2023 recipients of the United States Naval Academy Alumni Association's Distinguished Graduate Award. Ladies and gentlemen, the Navy Blue and Gold. Honored guests, this concludes the United States Naval Academy and United States Naval Academy Alumni Association's 25th Distinguished Graduate Award Medal Ceremony. We ask that all guests wishing to meet with this year's Distinguished Graduate Award recipients please gather on the arena floor in front of the stage. Brigade dismissed.